Yeah, it's helpful if we start recording.
Yes. So again, welcome and thank you for joining us. Obviously we all have been very impacted by COVID. We have not been as active as pre-COVID times. It's been a little challenging for us to organize these meetings, and John and myself, obviously, as you all probably know, volunteer to run this group. And so personal or professional load can sometimes make it a little difficult for us to organize these meetings. So, hopefully as things eventually start to taper off and we'll start to be able to meet other people again, we'll be able to reignite this group. But we really want to try and continue at least every other month to do a remote session like this and try to get value, so give value to you guys. So if you have any thoughts, any things you'd like to hear or see about, feel free to shoot out a message to us. We're always happy to hear about ideas of what you guys want to hear about, because in the end of the day, John and I can sit, for an hour and talk about all the things we think could be interesting, but nobody may care. So just feel free to be open with us and communicate. We're just here for you guys. With that said, today we are here to talk about Salesforce DX and really kind of do a hands-on session. For those of you who may be interested to either see, you may have already touched DX a little bit, but maybe it's been a while. Maybe you just want to walk through this with someone so you can ask questions. So today we have about an hour and change ahead of us, where we'll walk through some DX activities together, and John will kind of lead. But this is also an opportunity for you guys to kind of raise your hand and say, hey, can you help me? I'm getting stuck here, or can I show my screen for a second, show me what's going on, or whatever it is that you may want to do. And so, John and myself, hopefully, I think everybody is not a first timer here. So you all know us, no really need to introduce. Hopefully by now you have already had VS Code installed the CLI, and have an org that you are working with that is ready to play with today in the call. But if you're not, if you're only here to watch, that's fine as well. Who just joined? Do we have somebody new joined the call? Sal. Hi, Sal.
Hello, how are you doing?
Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent.
I'm happy to hear that. Sal, where do you come from?
I am from, I'm from Northern Virginia, so I'm about 20 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Pretty much grew up in Northern Virginia area, so I'm very familiar with the Beltway, if you're familiar with that.
And what do you do in your professional life? Are you a developer?
I am a hybrid of an admin and a developer. More recently, I actually just in my own on my current project, I actually am just starting to get into Visual Studio Code and Git. So when I saw this, I thought that it's down like kind of what I'm doing right now, so I can maybe take a couple of pointers here once it's installed and go from there.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're happy to have you. We're just getting started now. So with that, as you can see on my screen, here's the prerequisites, and John has taken the liberty to copy and paste some links into the Zoom chat. So feel free to open these links. The setup guide obviously walks you step by step on how to set up. The developer guide walks you on how to use DX, and then the CLI command reference has, well, CLI command references.
It's a good thing to have.
All right, I'll definitely keep that.
So by now you should have all of these things done, and here are some of what we're trying to go through today. So we're going to look at how you create a new DX project in VS Code, and what does it really mean to create a project? How do we create a new Scratch orgs? How do we create a package using source code repositories, and how do we run unit tests? And then whatever else that you, this is where John couldn't finish typing fast enough. Whatever else you might have questions about.
I told you to wait. I told you to wait until I was done.
You know that I don't listen.
Uh,
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna stop sharing and let John start sharing.
Oh lordy. All right. So let's see. I know how to do DX, but doing this is totally different.
DX
All right.
is easy. Sharing your
DX,
screen is hard.
yeah, sharing my screen is just totally ridiculous and small. All righty. No, I don't want to share that screen. Let's share this screen. And okay, and voila. So everybody should see my screen, and they should see a beautiful sunset at the beach, because that's just what's happened to be my background real quick. So let me know if you need me to expand the font or whatever. So I guess ground rules, what are you thinking, Ohad? We just sort of, if people have questions, they type them in the chat or they speak up or something like that. And since you're muted, I really can't hear you. So there you go. That
I'm
makes
saying
it
I
even-
think we're a pretty small enough group that we can be
Yeah.
pretty informal. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself, ask your questions. I'll start by asking before John jumps into this.
Yeah.
Is there anybody here who doesn't have VS Code configured on their computer right now and CLI installed? And so if everybody's silent, to me that means everybody has VS
Yeah.
Code configured. They are on VS Code right now, just like John have here, and have the Dev Hub open as well in another window.
Yeah. So I guess the prerequisites, okay. When setting up the DX project and getting started, obviously we were talking about, you had VS Code installed. And so that's just here. And specifically when you got VS Code installed, you really need the plugins. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see an icon here. It says extensions. And when you look at the extensions, you see a lot that I have just flying around because I have a lot of extensions in my version. But what you end up doing is you look for the Salesforce, and really it's the extension pack. So Salesforce extension pack is the second one here. And what that will do is actually install a bunch of the plugins for the CLI, for the command line interface, the DX CLI. And also all the other different things like the Lightning LWC developing extensions and a few other things out there. There's a whole bunch of things that they've been adding into it. But basically, if you get this, if you go into the recommended section or the extension marketplace and type in Salesforce extension pack, make sure it's the one from Salesforce and not the Aperios, although that's probably a good one as well, but still the official one, you'll be good to go. Once you restart, again, if you're not familiar with VS Code, VS Code has what is called the command palette. And on an Apple, which is all I ever deal with, it is the command shift P, letter P is in pi. And so once you've got the Salesforce extension packs in, you have a lot of the Salesforce DX commands available to you. And the way to find them is just prefix with SFDX. And so that will give you the commands that are available at any given time. Right now, it's only given me a handful of commands because I haven't actually created a project yet. And so if you look around, there's no folder here or anything that's opened up, and it's pretty just basic, straight out of the box DX. So the first thing you just want to do is obviously just create a command. But before we do that, if you go to the terminal, open up a terminal, and you can open up one in VS Code. It's probably the easiest way to deal with it. Let me get a little more real estate here. You just want to make sure that the SFDX command line is actually set up correctly on your machine. And easy way to do that is just type SFDX, or you can do SFDX version. And it'll give you this version. This one is, the latest one is the 7.71 version. That was released last week. And so the thing about we've talked about it numerous times, numerous meetings, the Salesforce DX CLI is is updated weekly almost. And so if you need to update your version, if it's been a while since you've updated it, just type in SFDX update and it will go through the motions and update your CLI, update to the plugins. It'll update the whole installation. So the first thing you need to do is set up your Dev Hub. And so your Dev Hub is the one that controls all of the DX development. It controls, excuse me, the access and creation of the Scratch orgs that you'll need for development. And I had my Dev Hub, this is my personal developer edition. So if you don't have a personal developer edition org, then just go out to developer.salesforce.com, find the link and you can create it. But once you get into the setup, you need to just type in Dev Hub in the quick find tool, and right under the development section, there'll be Dev Hub. And all you really need to do is activate a couple of switches to turn it into the Dev Hub that you want to do. The first one is just enable Dev Hub. The second one is important if you want to do what they call source tracking to the standard sandboxes and non-Scratch orgs. So if you want to do that, I never do that. I only work in Scratch orgs, so mine's disabled. I really don't care. But for today as well, you also want to enable the unlock packages or second-gen managed packages as well. If you want Einstein features, that's up to you, but I'm not dealing with that right at the moment. So once you've got that set up, then you can use your CLI to authenticate to your Dev Hub. So the very first thing you do before you create a project is you need to authenticate the CLI to the Dev Hub. The way to do that is you can type in the Salesforce DX command and then force. And so the word force is just the beginning of the commands. And I think Harshini especially remembers when I was telling her this, there's after every command, there is a -H flag. And so what that allows you to do is it allows you to see real quick what commands are available. So if you ever forget a command, and trust me, I've been working with this for 3 years and I forget commands left and right, or I forget the particulars of the command. Just remember, type what you know, and then add the -H and it'll show you what you've got at this point. As you can see, there's a lot of different commands available. What we're trying to do right now is authenticate. So it's going to be in the force auth area. And if we go into the auth and get a -H there, there will be the force auth web login command. And so I will say this, if you want me to, I will increase the font, but if everybody can see this pretty good, that's fine. I'm on a supersized monitor at the moment, so it might be a little small for everybody's eyes, but that's okay. All right, but the -H command gives you all the particulars how to use that command. And the force auth web login is what we're going to do. We're going to tell the CLI, the command line tool, to authenticate to the Dev Hub, and we're going to do it in a special way to tell it we want to use it as the Dev Hub. So what you see here are the various options. The first thing is about an alias. So in this case, I want to call it, I will put set alias, and I want it to be personal Dev Hub. And then I want it to be my default Dev Hub user or Dev Hub username. So basically I can set this once on my system and then I can forget it, and every project will use this. You can override it on a project per basis, but do that from there. The last important piece is the instance URL. And what you really are looking for is the login URL for your org. In my case, this is the developer edition, and then my salesforce.com. If you're using a domain name on your personal developer edition org, then you will always authenticate at the domain name .mice.salesforce.com. You can authenticate to login.salesforce.com as well, but you know, it's better to set up a domain name so you can always access it. And that's pretty much straight and simple to do. And what it does is once you execute that command, it opens up a web browser real fast and you log in. And if you're like me, you put in your two-factor authentication, which I'm kind of hearing through the grapevine that eventually this will be mandatory across the entire world. But we'll let that slip in. And it's real simple. You just log in, and once you're logged in, great, it's no big deal. But now the CLI shows that you've successfully authenticated to this org. So now let's type in a different command. In the force list, there is a list of commands that talk about the orgs that I am currently set up against, this force org. So all my org connections can be managed here. And there is specifically, there's a command called the force org list command. And so when I look at that information, that basically just lists all of the orgs that I've created or I'm authenticated to. I've either created a Scratch org or I'm authenticated to a dev hub or to a sandbox or to a developer edition org, whatever I'm messing around with. So when we look at it, let's take a look at the list that I have. And you see here, this line right here. So this one was just created. It's the personal dev hub. This is the username that it gave. So it's giving me an alias. And what's important is, well, what's important is the connection status is green, which is good. But the other thing is the parameter D here. And that parameter D here says, I'm the default dev hub for the computer right now. Now, if you don't like typing on the command line, that's fine. You could just go to the command palette. And again, that on the Apple, it's Command Shift P. I don't know what it is on Windows, but it would be, you should be able to find it in one of the menu items as well. So you create a project, and I think because I'm already authenticated, it won't give me that option, but we'll play with this for a second. Forget that. But there should be if you're not connected to the Dev Hub, it should give you an option here in the command palette to say, I want to go ahead and create or authenticate to the Dev Hub. And I think the command is literally authenticate or something like that. So, all right, once you've got your connection to the Dev Hub, now you're ready to start creating a project. And it's pretty simple. Again, you've got the create project. You've got create project with a manifest. And there's a slight difference there. Ohad, if I need to be paying attention to any of the messages, let me know. So there's two different types. Okay, cool. And so there's two types of projects you can create, one without a manifest and one with a manifest. The manifest is just the old package XML. So you might want to, if you're working a lot with sandboxes and not working in Scratch orgs, you might want to create the project with a manifest. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to interface with the sandbox, and you can do development, but you can do it in a DX source format. We talked about that, how that's structured. And with the manifest or package XML allows you to specify what files you want to deal with out of that sandbox. But for this, we're going to deal with a Scratch org. So we're just going to set up as just a straight up DX project and go from there. It gives you a couple of different templates that you want to play with. Again, it's just about what do you have set up and structured in there. Choose whatever you're interested in, go play around with them, see what you kind of get set up. The last thing it's really talking about is the inner project name. And so we will talk about this one as the RVA SF Doug demo. That'll be the one for tonight. And then it's going to say, well, where do you want to put it? And so you just pick the directory and just drop it in there and hit create project. So you see this little menu item right here. It says I'm running the command in the background, and it opens up once it's done. So what it's done thus far is there is in my directory, I have a project called the RVA SF Doug demo. And it loaded up a whole bunch of basic files, and then it loaded it up inside the VS Code. Now, when you use the command palette, remember that the VS Code command palette is really a wrapper around the CLI. So if I really was in the mood to do this, I could have done this by going, I think it's project create. So basically the command palette basically just executed the force project create command for me. And it's a little bit easier to work with from the command palette. It prompts you for all the information, but you know, it's basically the same thing. I was asked for a project name. I was asked for the template and whether or not I wanted a manifest or not, those types of things. So it's pretty straightforward. And when you get the project, it's pretty empty, pretty easy, pretty simple to deal with. So let's clear that. This is the welcome screen in VS Code. You can get rid of that. So, all right, let's take a look at the project a little bit. It's got a bunch of directories. It's got a README file, and if you take a look at that README file, then it's just pretty straightforward. It's the vanilla thing and basics about what's going on in the project. You know, it lists a couple of the basic commands that you can do for you know, push and pull, as far as pushing and pulling the code from the Salesforce Scratch org. Talks about the project JSON file, which we're going to look at in a minute here, and then working with source. So if you're new to DX and DX projects, take a look at this file in depth. This is the raw form of it, and go from there. So there's a couple of different things here. Actually, this added quite a bit of stuff extra. Oh, all right, I haven't seen this template in a little while. Interesting. Okay, so it's been adding that. Yep, no big deal. Interesting. Okay, all righty. Let's talk about a couple of things. First of all, you see these .sfdx and .vs code. You can, for the most part, ignore those. Those are just little directories that the project keeps hold of to manage the little metadata and the nuances of interacting with an org. So you can ignore that. The config directory has at least one file, and it's called the project scratch definition. But really, you can have a bunch of JSON files under here. This is the file that CLI or the Salesforce DX will use to construct your Scratch org. And so if you look at it, you can have multiple ones in here. You can configure multiple Scratch orgs, variations, maybe a Scratch org that has person accounts activated versus not. You can have one that has the developer edition, and you can have one that has the enterprise edition. So whatever you're really interested in doing, you can configure this top to bottom. Now, for those on the line, I entered the 3 links. I would encourage you to bookmark these links. The first one that I gave you was the Salesforce DX setup guide. If you didn't get the link and you're just looking at the video right now, then just go to the Salesforce DX developer documentation, which is developer.salesforce.com. Search for Salesforce DX setup guide. Read that. We've basically covered all of the steps as far as setting all of this up, but if you miss something, this will walk you through it. The second thing I gave you was again in the developer documentation, the Salesforce CLI command reference. And really, I've been typing the SFDX and then force, and then I've been basically saying -H. Well, the -H, if you don't want to see this and you don't want to read it from the terminal window, you can just go here, and this will list all of the different commands that are available for the current CLI. So like I said, there was the force auth, where is the auth web login, and it shows you all the syntax and what each parameter is all about, the instance URL, etc. And then, you know, there's the project. Where's the project? Where did project run off to? Here we go, project create, and it gives you all the commands. So all the commands I'm talking about tonight, they're either in the help section of the CLI itself, the -H, or you can go here to the command line reference. All right, got that one done. I'm gonna close that so I don't get confused. Now, the Salesforce DX developer guide is the third link that I gave everybody in the chat. And again, it's in the developer documentation. This one you must, if you're gonna do any serious development, any serious DX development, this one bookmark and never let the bookmark die. I would, if you're really serious about it, I would encourage you to get in here and just read it top to bottom. It's got a wealth of information about how to run DX projects, how to do everything. We're going to touch on a little bit of it here, but like we're talking about here, this is the Scratch org definition file. And so this will be the parameters and the details that we use to set up a Scratch org for our project. But the information is explained under the Scratch org section. And so it goes into greater detail about all the pieces of parts to it, what the configuration parts are available. So you've got things like I said person accounts. And so if you wanted to add person accounts in your org, forgive me, I'm scrolling pretty fast. Where did it run off to? Yeah, here it is. So person accounts. So I could use set up a feature. So let's talk about the Scratch org definition file a little bit real quick. It's the org name. It's got John Company because it's me and that's the default that it gives. Again, it's edition. What type of Scratch org do we want to? There's two values here. There is either developer or there is enterprise. And so either one of those values will work just fine in this edition column. Then the features, again, this is where you add all the extra features like, person accounts. And you notice that in VS Code, it will actually, as I type the
autocomplete.
Double, yeah, well, it's auto completing. Thank you, and that's really what I'm trying to say. So, whatever.
I'm trying to think of the other term, but I can't think of it either.
Well, I'm trying. When I type the double quote, thank you. That's the word I'm really looking for. Comma, double quote. The autocomplete comes on. So if I wanted to add communities to my Scratch org, I could do that. So that's pretty simple and easy enough to do. Let's see, this settings section. Again, let's see, we've got the enable, the SF, the Salesforce One desktop is enabled. Apparently this put some sort of password policy into it. What is this? Enable set password and API. All right, whatever. And this is encrypted or whatever. So some of the other ones, again, you can hit autocomplete and it will set it up for you. There's a lot of different types of settings in here, and it references it. Where does it reference it? So Scratch org settings. So Scratch org settings starts showing you a little bit here. And what these really are just in the setup menu of a typical org, there are a lot of different settings. And really, this is your shortcut to setting all of these different things. So if we were to go into the security section of this org and look at the session settings, here we go. So I personally like having my session timeout to be 12 hours. So these are the settings I can set it up. So this is my org, but if I wanted to set up my Scratch org the same way, I could do it with a security, so what is it? It's security settings, and I've already got security settings already listed, so I just need to add it here. So add it here, and then what is it? It won't autocomplete, but that's all right. And okay, what it will, yeah, here we go. Session timeout is the default one, so I might as well just copy this straight out, because I'm just being lazy right now. No comments from Ken Bailogflow. Anyway. So what it does, again, it gives you, you can just add these in. And so there's a huge number of settings in the setup menu. And the way, this is the Scratch org settings menu, but this really doesn't touch on a lot of them. Really, all of the settings are commented in another one of the developer guides, the metadata API developer guide, and you can click on that link from right here. And really, what it does is, this is the metadata API, and all the way down here on the left is the settings menu. And then it gets into all of these different ones, the account settings. I'm playing around with the security setting, which is down in here. And on the security setting, I can see, where is it? Where's timeout? Timeout. So I can disable timeout warning, session timeout. So I can add that, and then I can add these different words. So this one's the 12 hours one. And so really all I did was set up session settings. Notice that it's the camel case, so the first letter is lowercase. And then the session timeout value is one of the items inside here, and then I just give it the word that I'm looking for. But if I also wanted to disable, well, let's go timeout because I just saw it and it was wonderful. So disable timeout warning. So I can do that under the session settings as well. But I'll do it not this way. It's disable and true. All right, so there we go. And so you basically, over the life of your project, will figure out the settings that you're really interested in doing, and you'll just compare it from the metadata directory, excuse me, the metadata API guide, and then you'll be ready to go. This is important though, because if you've got a large group of developers and you're all working on the same project, you want your Scratch org, your development environment, to be identical for every single developer. And you want it to be explicitly defined. So you don't want to have extra features accidentally activated in one developer's Scratch org and it's not active in another, because the source code may be depending on some of these features to be enabled in the org, or it won't compile. So that's one of the beauties of this. So we've got a basic idea of what we're doing here. And so now that we've got this here, we can either go to the command palette. And now if we type, now that we're in an active project, our SFDX commands open up a whole lot more. And I can't remember the exact name and I'm getting blurred out. So let me just type Scratch. So, okay, here we go. The command, notice the command sort of auto is intuitive and it filters down to exactly what I'm looking for. But create default Scratch org is really what I'm after here. So we get in there and it says, well, which Scratch org definition file do you want to use? And so it will be basically any file that's under the config directory that has project, or excuse me, that has -scratch-def.json in it. So if I had a second one here saying enterprise project-scratch, it would show that options here as well. Since I only have one, I'll just choose this by default. It says, give me a name, an alias for this org. It'll default it to the project name. So RVA SFDUG demo. And you can just hit enter to confirm, or you can type whatever you're looking for as far as an alias name, whatever works for you. And then it's like, how long do you want the Scratch org to live? The default is 7 days. The maximum for a Scratch org is 30. The shortest amount is 1 day. And typically that's all I set mine for. And it goes away and does it. Again, while that's cooking, so it's running here in the background. Let's see. While we're looking at, so we've got terminal here in VS Code. Let's go look at output, because output, if you click here, there's a lot of different options, but Salesforce CLI will show you everything that the VS Code is doing. So I told you that VS Code, the command palette, actually is just a wrapper over the CLI. Well, here's how you can actually see what it's actually doing. And so it really executed the full command. It said, I want to use this Scratch org definition file. My alias will be the RVA SFDUG demo. I want it for 1 day. It'll be my default username. And there's some extra things that it flags that it gave. So as long as the exit code is 0, it's happy and it's good. So we just created a Scratch org Scratch org for us. And to know that, let's go look at the command we looked at earlier, the force org list command. Again, this shows me all the orgs that I have access to. And now we see a new one here in this new section. So this new section is all about Scratch orgs. And it shows that we have this one available. So this U shows that this is the default one of a Scratch org for me, or this is the default username, I should say. Here's my alias. Scratch orgs, they give a very randomized username, so don't even try to remember, just hold on to your alias. And then the important thing is, when is my scratch org going to expire? And for this one, it's going to expire tomorrow, which is great. Now, take a look here at the bottom section of the VS Code. So when you set up a scratch org and you make it the default, over here in the bottom left-hand corner, right on the tray, it shows what the default scratch org or default org is. And so because the command actually said set default username, it went ahead and set it up here as my default. I can click here and it'll open a menu and it'll say, well, show me which orgs I have access to, and I can choose to make one of these others my scratch org. Oh, this is how it was. Okay, I'm sorry. Early on, I was saying there was a way to do it in Command Palette to authorize a dev hub. It will be down here at the bottom. If you click on it, and it'll open this menu. You can choose these to either create a default scratch org, but really authorize a dev hub or authorize an org. You can log into a sandbox if you wanted to, or you can authorize a dev hub. Anyway, but these extra ones are just the aliases and usernames that I have. And here, sure enough, here's the RVA Doug demo. And it goes without saying that, you know, if you have questions, speak up, but nobody's speaking up. So I'm assuming that everything's just making lovely sense. Once you have an org set as the default, there's this other icon right here, and that is the open org icon. So just clicking on this will run a command, and it really will run the SFDX force org open command. And sure enough, in the web browser, give it a second sometimes, because Salesforce is sometimes the fastest thing in the place. And here we go. So this is my scratch org. Now, you know it's a scratch org because it has some bizarre name in the URL. These are unique and they are dynamically allocated. So let's take a look around the org a little bit. One thing we did notice was that in the scratch org definition, we made person accounts open, and we also activated the communities feature. So if you're familiar with communities, down in here, go to communities, community settings. If we had not activated communities, what did it? Oh no, it enabled communities here, and then that's what it did. So it gave us the option to work with communities here and expose the communities menu. I said also that person accounts were enabled. So one thing about, and if you look in the object manager, you've got the account. And if you look at the fields, let's see, are there any fields in here from person account? Sure enough, person other name, phone, person other address, person last name, person home phone, whatever. But if you look at the object browser, you'll eventually see, yep, here it is, person account. This is about the person account page layouts and record types for that and things like that. So this org is ready to go. It has person accounts enabled, as communities enabled. It can author Apex. And you know, we had the session timeout set to 12 hours. So let's go double check and make sure that's working the way we want it to. So that's down in security, session sounds. And sure enough, here at the top, my timeout is 12 hours. So this is pretty much nuts and bolts about how to create the scratch org. Like I said, there are infinite number of possibilities here, ways to configure the org, but this stays with your project and you're ready to go. So that's the scratch org. So that's the config directory. Yeah, was that a question? I'm gonna hold that it wasn't. All right, cool. Here's some other files. Yes.
This is Gan here. I have a question here.
Yes.
So I've seen that we are making changes in the JSON file for the scratch org first. And then instead of that, can we just directly open and scratch org and do it in the UI? How that will reflect in the JSON file, in the VS Code?
Okay, so the question is, if I make the changes directly in the UI, will I see them in the scratch org definition file? The answer is absolutely no.
Well, it's even further than that. What we've looked at so far are not necessarily all things that can be. So the feature activation, some of them can be activated through the UI, like communities or person accounts, and some cannot be. So there's some features you may be able to activate on a Scratch org when you create it through the Scratch org definition, like Einstein, for example, or like I don't know what
You can activate Einstein.
Well, I can't think of an example now. I'm sure I can find one in a second after I hand it back to you. But there's definitely some features you can activate, like Service Cloud is an example, right? Service Cloud is a license that you'd have to purchase from Salesforce. You can't just go and activate Service Cloud, but you can do it from the JSON.
You can act, yeah, all right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's some things you can't turn on without a license involved, but you can specify it in the features. You definitely can specify Service Cloud, chatbot, anything like you see here, and it will set up. So, but to your question, it is not, the CLI is not tracking configuration items of an org.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it this way. There's configuration items of an org and there's project files. Now the project files represent your application. Eventually, if you wanted to, they would represent your second generation package, which we'll get into in a little bit here. But that you would never deploy your package to an org and have it adjust the session timeout of that org. And so that's why they're keeping very specific separation between org configuration or environment configuration and the code that represents the application. So fundamentally, that's the big difference right there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That's actually a wonderful question. Honestly, to God, I've never thought about that question, and I can. It makes perfect sense. I don't know why I didn't think of it. Okay. All right. In DX, everything is driven by the CLI. Even me working from the command palette, all of these commands are still driven by the CLI. But the question is, how does the CLI understand how to interact with the project and the source control? And the way it does is from this file, the project JSON, or the Salesforce project JSON. So in here, all right, where was it? So it might be in project setup. Excuse me. So we talked about creating a DX project. We talked about creating a DX project from existing source, convert, link, and package directories. So DX project configuration. So look for Salesforce DX project configuration. This gets into the section. This starts getting into the in-depth understanding of what's going on in this project configuration. Now, this is a very vanilla, very basic project, and we're going to let it grow a little bit through our next 35 minutes or so. But one thing it talks about is the package directory. So these are the locations of the source code. If you're an old time hat like Ohad and I, you remember the days that there used to be a project folder, and it was called the SRC folder. And then under the SRC folder, you would have all of the classes and all of the pages, et cetera. And so you would have all of the directory structure of the format. Gone are those days where we get rigid. And now I can set up anything I want to. Let me get rid of that. And I can put it under the Force app directory. And if we look, there's a lot going on here. So there's Force app main default, and then underneath that there's applications, Aura. There's some classes folder. I could have subfolders under here. So my domain classes. So we call them domains, and I might have selector types. So these are types of Apex classes. I might have I don't know. I might have, basically what I'm saying is I might have whatever my imagination can dictate of a directory structure. And it might help, and that directory structure might be very deep to allow me to better organize a large code base. So I might organize, the domains, the selectors, the service classes, the APIs, whatever they are. You can do the same with, permission sets, static resources, a lot of these things. But really, all the CLI cares about is where's the directory that I need to look at. And if you notice here, at the very top of the directory, is the force or the force-app directory. Everything else under that is really irrelevant because the CLI will scan everything from that directory down. And if you notice on line 4 here, that's how I tell it where the directory of code is. So I've said force app and the default is true. Those are the basic values. I might have force app, well, I'll call it secondary, for lack of a better way to think about this for the moment. I might call it force secondary, and I might have, you know, Apex main, and I might have another directory for classes. So I might have a secondary directory, and I need to tell the CLI where to do that. And that's basically the same thing. I add another package directory. So again, it's just this JSON format. And again, it's very polite and auto-completing for me. So I might tell it the path, and I say force secondary, and I will set the default to be false. So the next time the CLI runs, it will figure out, hey, I'm going to look in both of these directories and everything's great. Now, if you're with an ISV, typically you will get into the world of namespaces. So if you need to specify the namespace for your managed package, then this is where you would specify. You wouldn't specify it at the org, you would specify it as part of the project. And then when your project is authenticating it to your Scratch org, this is how this is the URL. So basically you just leave this alone and not worry about it right now. I've never had to change this in 3 years. And then the last thing is about the API version. So the API version is, you know, we're on summer 20 right now release. And so the API version for summer 20 is version 49.0. When it was spring 20, it was version 48. And when winter 21 is coming up soon, and winter 21 will be version 50. And so if you ever forget that, don't worry about it. You can just create a new project, see what it's doing, and it will default it. So the idea is, though, you can, once we move to winter 21, you can actually upgrade this to version 50, and it will take advantage of the version 50 metadata API. And if you look in the release notes of each release, you can see under the metadata section new and improved versions of it. And so it's a good idea to keep your version up to date if you've got a long running project. So these are the basic things going from there. All right, what we want to do now is maybe set up, we'll create just a simple thing like an Apex class. So again, we'll go for the command palette, SFDX, and something I want to say Apex. And sure enough, second option is create Apex class. You could create a flow, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about foobar, because I love the word foobar. And then it's going to say, well, where do you want me to put it? And I can put it in the default here, or I can put it here, or I could just choose a custom directory where I want to put it. Say I want to put it, I don't know, let's see, I like the domains. So we'll put it in the domains class or directory. And so if you look here, sure enough, under the force app main default classes domains directory, there's this foobar class. Open up here, it's very straightforward, very easy. Sometimes I organize my code base in 2 sections. I organize it in the main section, and then I organize it in the test section. So I have force app, and then I'll have like classes here. So if I wanted to go again and say create another Apex class, and this time it'll be foobar test. And it'll say, well, where do you want to put it? And I was like, I don't like these directories. I want to put it in the test. So I notice I start filtering on when I'm typing, type classes. Sure enough, we wait for a second. And here's the foobar test class. So let's bring the foobar class up. Let's grab the foobar. He's hiding down here. Great. Notice down here at the bottom, again, the output from the VS Code is in the Salesforce CLI. And sure enough, it's been executing Salesforce commands. So the command to create an Apex class is this, and I gave it the class name and where I wanted to put it, all these details. And again, if you want to explore the details about this command, just execute force Apex class create -H, and it'll give you all the options out there. I could, like I said, I could go into the org directly, and I mean, if I really wanted to, I could. I hate the developer console, but if I really wanted to open, yes, I don't like the developer console.
That's new.
That's just, nah. The only thing I like about the developer console is running the SOC with explain plan to understand what's going on. But that's okay. So we'll say I want a new class, and we'll call it Ohad's Revenge, because that's a cool sounding name.
Sounds like something I would create.
Exactly. So I've got a class in here called Ohad's Revenge, and I created it directly from the UI. Now, it doesn't matter if it's an Apex class or if it's a flow, if I was creating flows, process automation, whatever. So going back to the gentleman's earlier question about what if I created it in the org, well, would I be able to get it? And the answer is yes, definitely. So here we see Ohad's Revenge, but we don't see the foo bar. So let's talk about the next thing, pushing code. So if we do this and we go, I think it's push. And if I can spell push correctly, that would probably be helpful. All right, push source code to the default Scratch org. So I just do that. And you do it the first time, and as long as it runs correctly. Cannot read property of undefined. Oh, this is great. Of course, in the demo, we get problems.
Of course, record of undefined.
Yeah, so let me try it from the command line. So for that, for source push. Let's see if it catches up this way. So if you're running from the command line, it will push things up, and it worked this time. That for those interested, sometimes if you see this, try the command again a second time. It may be just a temporary quirk with DX operations. But here it showed that, you know, it pushed all the source up, pushed foobar test. And if we go back over here and reload this page, now we see 3 classes. Maybe as soon as the page refreshes. Come on, page. All right,
you can
work
do
with
it.
me. You can do it. There it is. Hey, I'm not a liar. It's awesome. But we still don't have Ohad's Revenge down in our source control. So to get that, or really to get any changes that we make in this Scratch org, and we need to get them down to the source code level, we need to now, instead of pushing them up to the org, we need to pull from the org. So SFDX pull, here we go, pull from the org. So the Salesforce DX is smart enough and it say, well, I've got these files here locally in my source control, source code, and I've got all these files up in the Scratch org. What else do I need to pull down? And sure enough, Ohad's Revenge right here is the one that we didn't have before. So we was able to pull it down real quick. Again, just like before, you can do force source pull and pull. And it will just do that. So, all right. What we've shown right now is how to...
And I will just say, for some of us that are CLI lazy, using the command palette to do all these commands is just as useful and just as helpful. Ignoring the error that John just got, you can absolutely, I personally do a lot of that through the command palette a lot of times.
Yeah, let's see.
Especially pushing, pulling, stuff like that.
Yeah, so this time it came through just fine. So again, it was a minor hiccup at Salesforce. I blame Salesforce, really. So if you were making any changes or something like that, so you might have public void execute revenge, and you have something that might be system debug. I don't know. I take revenge. I'm very
Sounds
creative
like something
tonight.
I'd say.
Yeah. So notice the little the round dot right here, which means I'm editing the file. I haven't saved it. But once I do save it, now VS Code is very nice and helpful, and it actually pushes the code straight up to the org. I don't have to execute the command all the time. And sure enough, if I go into Ohad's Revenge and take a look at that class now, we see the lines that I just added. And if I were to make a change here and then do a refresh, it would be kind enough to bring it through. But see, it says that it's changed. And really, this is for all the files. So if I was working with flows and process builders, same type of thing. Or if I made a change to an object or whatever. Now, if I'm done developing and I want to check the code coverage, if I look in the command palette and then sfdx test, run Apex test. Well, we do have a test. Well, no, we don't. Crap, sorry. We don't have a test yet because, Ohad, you were supposed to look out for me here.
Yes, I'm sorry. My brother was just bugging me.
Okay, well, tell him to just wait a second. And then what was
sorry.
that? So we're gonna actually get Ohad's Revenge here. So we're gonna.
Yeah. So there are a few questions from Harry.
All right, Harry, call me the. I'm not looking at.
Seems to have answered.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the
Harry's
chat.
asking, what if you want to move a class to a different folder? Can you just move it manually?
Oh, so if I so I just grab, pick it up and just drag it over. Now it's in here, and the next time I do a push, hang on. Let me get this compilable. So I made this change and it's doing it. And really what happened was it says, oh, Ohad's Revenge file is now in the domains folder. I will delete it from the classes folder, and oh yeah, foobar test changed. So drag and drop and it'll pick it up the next time you sync between the environments. So having said that, let's see, test, and we will go here and we say Ohad's Revenge. And we'll call it the or equals new Ohad's Revenge. And then we will go or dot, what was the method name in here? Execute the revenge. So that'll be our test. I think, yes. Why is it? Oh, okay. The class. Great. Or is a keyword, so it didn't like that. So that's what's going on. So yeah, okay, there we go, great. And I hit save. And of course it's a code change, so it's gonna push it up real fast to the environment. We're doing all right on time. There it is. Test methods must be declared as static. Oh yeah, that's right.
We expect somebody like John to know that by now.
I should, really. It's almost like, what do I? Static unit test, static. Come on, Cletus. And voila, it's good. All right, cool. Now we have a valid test in the environment. So this, you see this little blurb right here that's appearing between the lines. I can either run all tests or run this specific test. So this is a cool nifty feature of VS Code and the Salesforce extensions. It recognizes this is a test. It recognizes that it has a scratch org that it's set up against. So if you really wanted to run the test just by yourself, you could do it right here and just click on this link and it would execute the test all day long. And again, it's just executing the CLI, which is the command force apex test run. And it said, well, I just want to do all of these different things. And it's going to give you all the test code coverage and everything like that. And our test coverage is there. So everything, there was one test and one test passed, 0 tests failed, none of them were skipped. So my pass rate is 100%. And then my whole test run coverage is that, and my org-wide coverage is only 33%. That sucks. Because I didn't do, I'm not exercising my FUBAR class either. So let's do this real fast, and we'll get out of the test. Private.
And this is also, while John is typing, this is a great way to only execute a single test method. If you're going to Salesforce, you have to execute the entire test class.
Yep.
So as I remember, there's no way to do a specific test method from the UI in Salesforce.
That's
However,
because
here
you
you
don't.
can.
Well, see, all right. See, now you calling me out here. So
I am.
if you are, if you go to Developer Console and you go to the test and you do a new test run, and it says, which one do you want to do? And if
Okay,
you select that,
I was testing you and you passed.
all right,
I'm
thank you.
very,
So I
very
passed
proud
the
of you,
test.
John.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Nothing but love for you, brother. Okay, we've done that. So let's clear the thing out, and let's, again, from the command palettes, SFDX. Oh, that was very nice of it. It took the most recent command that I typed and brought it right up to the top. So that was very nice. So I run Apex tests, and I can run specific tests. Ignore these real quick, and then all tests. So if I wanted to go all tests, so it's running the thing, it's gathering the code coverage, the result format, you can read up on all these details, but again, it ran the tests and it passed, and the org-wide coverage is 66%. Not sure why it's not 100%, but that's okay, it's not a big deal. And there, so that's how you run the unit tests, and we'll go from there. Now, any questions before I move into packages? Because I'm going to fly through packages because it's a bit more involved content, and we can give you some links to other places where I went into a much larger thing. In fact,
so John, the folder structure is now stored within Salesforce, right?
Well, the folder structure isn't stored in Salesforce. The files that were in the folder structure are stored in Salesforce.
So if I lose my local project for some reason, and I want to pull it down from my org, I'm just going to get one classes folder again.
Yes, you would. But then to Harry's comment, you can slide it around and reorganize it the way you want to.
Right. Yeah. But that's not stored in Salesforce. It's more for source control and for local development.
Exactly. All right. Okay. So we've got our code base the way we want it. Everything's set up. It's great. Now, I want to create a package, a second generation package. And so in the Salesforce DX developer guide, let me go right up here. All right. So now we're getting into, well, development a little bit, and we talked about create a class, create a trigger, running the test, etc. Now we're talking about second generation packages. If you're an ISV, second generation managed packages is where you want to really pay attention to. But if you just want to play around, unlock packages is where you want to get into this. So it talks about what's a package and how that, I'll let you read that at your heart's content. Package-based development model before you create a package. A couple of different things about your Dev Hub. And now it's talking about let's create or create a package. So we need to generate a package. So here so when we're creating a package, there's a distinction of there's a package and there's a package version. So you might have lots of different packages, and then each one of them have multiple versions. Now, the beauty of this is that the Dev Hub knows about the packages that you're working with. So if we look, so again, we're working from my personal Dev Hub. So if I list the package that we want to see, list, and let's open this up slightly. Get a little bit more real estate here. All right. So if we go force package list, well, it says Dev Hub, tell me what packages you have available. And it gives you a readout like this. Now, I experiment on this stuff all day long, and so I've got a lot of different packages and stuff like that. But it basically tells you the package name. It tells you whether or not it has a namespace with these packages. Some of them do, some of them don't. So the unlocked packages don't have namespaces usually, but the managed packages generally will always have a namespace. It gives you this unique record ID, which is your package. Okay, great. And it gives, you know, whatever you've set up as the description, and then really the type over here in the backside. Is it unlocked? Is it managed? And that's the different types that you're dealing with. So for the demo, let's go force package create. Now, force package create, none of the package commands other than the install package are in the command palette. So you have to get down to the command line from here. But again, it's pretty simple. Force package create, and then tell me what it is, what are the parameters that I really want to look for. So I might want to create, we'll call it, so I will go the name, so dash name, and I will call it the RVA SF Doug demo. And
what is RSV?
I don't know. Dude, yeah. All right. RVA, thank you. SF Doug demo. There you go. I mean, I blame Harry because he's just not speaking up and keeping me honest here. So
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's typically Harry's fault.
Yeah. And, you know, we'll just put it, so demo package for RVA SF Doug meetup. And I don't want a namespace, so I'll just add this in here. And let's see what other things. My path. So this says in your project what folder will contain the pieces of for the package. Now I have multiple package directories up here, but only one of them can be. And so here I'm going to put, all right, so it's -- path, and then it's force app. So that's really the directory that matches line 4, the path element that's specified in line 4 in that file above. And then the package type. And this one is just going to be simply unlocked. And nothing else I need to really worry about right now. So we'll just do that and let it go for a second. All right, so I have successfully created my package, and my package is the RVA SF Doug demo. Again, it has a little package ID, something like that. So let me clear this, go back and list the packages again. Now when I list the packages.
Oh my goodness, this is so awesome.
Yeah, here we go. Let me get the real estate a little bit easier. Here it is, RVA SF Doug demo. So sure enough, this guy showed up. It's exactly the information I set up, but now something else has changed. This is the project JSON file. Now the package directory takes on a few extra pieces of information. The package name, the package name and the version name, so it defaults to version 0.1 or whatever, and then the version number. So it gives you a series of versions and then the .next. So I can, basically you can change the version. If I wanted to, I could make it version 2 or 1.2 or whatever, but we'll stay with version 1.next for the moment. So everything in this folder now becomes part of this package, and none of this stuff becomes part of the package. The other thing is the package here on line 6 is a alphanumeric, basically. It's a label, but that label is now in the package aliases section, and all this package aliases section is about is to keep the labels straight, because really Salesforce wants to know what is this record ID. Notice when I'm talking about all these different packages, Salesforce treats them down here by these record IDs. And so you just need to sort of create an alias to understand what it is you're dealing with. And Salesforce is very good to keep it doing, to do this for you. You could take this 0HO and put it right in here, and it would be perfectly legal, but nobody will remember what this is down the road. So this helps easily understand what's going on. All right, so what I've got is I've got a package, but no package. I haven't created a package version yet. So let's grab this. So we listed the packages. So there was force package list. But now if I want to see the versions, I change the command to be force package version list. And let me check out what the parameters are. So the parameters are, if I want to, I can say, tell me about all the packages that have been created in the last X days, or modified or ordered by certain things. But really I want to say, show me all the package versions in these packages. So let me go packages. And let me just say the one that I'm looking for. So if I run it, there's no package versions yet. To show you that I'm not, let me go do one thing. That is, how are we doing on time? We're not too bad on time.
Yeah, we have another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, I can make that happen. I can make that happen. It's a challenge now. All right, so let me add one more project. We'll call it the reference AT40X. Doesn't really matter because this is just in my Dev Hub. But I can add an alias, and you'll see why I'm adding the alias to the project file in just a second. Okay, now, so I'm back to my package version command. What if I want to look at a different package? Well, I specified RVASF demo because that was in my aliases. I'm in the directory of my project, so I can take advantage of all these aliases that are specified. So I added this alias. Let's see what this guy has. So I built a couple of versions, and here are the version numbers in this section. The version name is the same. You know, it's got a couple of different bits of information, you know, the branch type, and whether or not ancestors validation was skipped or not, if there's code coverage. So it gives me some of the basic information about the package versions. So this is what we'll see when we create a new version of the RSDUG. Now, clear. If I want to create a package version, I execute the command force package version create. And of course, I've forgotten all the parameters, so let me add the -H flag to it.
Your memory really isn't what it used to be last week.
It is not, but then again, you still call me Jack, so what do you know? So.
Okay, Jimbo.
Right, yeah, for real, Jimbo, whatever. All right, so this command has a lot of things in it. Again, you know, go look into where it's talking about creating a package. Where is it? So there's create the package, generate a package version. This gets into a lot of the details about it. And then again, this command line reference will give you package version create. All right, so this gives you the entire explanation of all of these different parameters or option flags, etc. You can have post-install scripts, uninstall scripts, all of these things that you would normally see in a package version and stuff like that. Tag, path, package version, all these different things, a lot of different parameters. So I play with this a lot. That's the only real way you're going to get used to it. But for now, we will go here. We're going to say, we've got to tell it what package we want to build. So that is the package command. Now, all night I've been doing the long names of these, but if you want to use the shortcuts, that will work just fine. So -P. And let's use the alias of this. And it also wants the path to the directory. Now, I can give it force app, but I don't need to pass this command because the force app has been declared the default. So we had this default value here. This is the one folder that becomes the default. This is the automatic packages built. There can only be one default in the package directory section of the project JSON. So I don't need to worry about that. If I'm going to release this thing eventually into production, might as well add the code coverage to it. So let's add that. And this may take a little while, so I will wait and I'll let the command keep going for 30 minutes. You know, I think it defaults to, actually it will, the command will stop, and then you can run another command that says, you know, tell me, give me the status on it, but that's okay. We won't worry about that right now. And I don't want to have an installation key, so I will tell it to bypass. And it really doesn't matter what order these parameters come in because it will figure it out on the fly. It's very smart about that. If I wanted to override the version name and version number, I could add these commands right here. If I wanted to use a different scratch.org definition file or a specific one, I could specify it. If not, if I don't specify it, it'll just go for the default one. And version name we already talked about. So yeah, so that's pretty much there. So let's go and we start the process. Now, depending on how big your code base is, this can take a little while. Now, again, I added the wait flag and I said, I want the command to keep running and keep giving me updates for the next 30 minutes. It won't take that long for this particular thing, but on some of the larger projects that I've been on, back when I was working at an ISV called Rootstock, that is a monstrously large package and it would take a couple of hours to build. So you don't always want the command to run. You just specify without the wait, and it'll give you an alternate command to check up on it later. Yeah, here's what the package version create report will actually retrieve the details about the package creation process. All right, but what's going on here is it's initial. You can see the current status on the side here. It's initializing. Now it's verifying metadata. What's really happened is this command has scooped up all of the metadata from the force app folder and only the force app folder. It's scooped up the scratch.org definition file, and it's also scooped up this thing. And it's just bundled it, really under the hood, it's bundled it into a zip file and sent it over to Salesforce and said, here, you go deal with this. What's really happening in the background is it verifies the thing, and it actually creates an environment, a completely sterile environment, and it lays down the source code. It creates a scratch.org with the definition that you gave it. It deploys all the code to that scratch.org. It runs all the unit tests. It makes sure that you have sufficient code coverage. And then it creates a package in the background in the world of Salesforce. And then when it's done, it comes back and tells you. So here we're already done. Like I said, it was a very simple package, so it's not a big deal.
The one thing to keep in mind is because it is creating this environment to run this test in and to packaging it in, you cannot have your code cannot have any dependencies that aren't included in the package unless it's defined as a dependency. So you can't just create a custom field that isn't included in this package in this org, reference it from the code, and then try to package it.
You actually can now.
Oh, well, shows what I know.
Well, we'll come to that. All right, and officially, I hate that feature, but that's a whole different story. All right, let me come back to that. All right, so it's definitely created the package version, and if you like packages by installation URL, here's your installation URL, and it said also, hey, the project JSON has been updated. Well, sure enough, if I go look at it, I have this new entry, which is the RVA SFDUG demo at version 0.1.0-1, and it gives me this 04T record ID. If you ever notice on the installation URLs of all packages, they always have that record ID, that pesky record ID at the bottom. This is what this is. And so if you really wanted to, you could use DX package install command and give it the, well, fudge, what's the the parameter that you're looking for. I want to, yeah, it's the package. So, and if I wanted to, I could say package. If I'm in this current directory, I could say this, because it knows about the aliases because I'm in that package directory. Or I could just give it the 04T if all I've got. So even on non-DX packages, all I gotta have is that 04T. And then I just specify which org I want to deploy this to. So you could do this. Now, here's another way to look at it. So I said the force package version list, and it was for the package RVA SFDUG demo. Show me all of the package versions out there. What did I just do? Oh, see, I forgot the command again. Dang it. You think I do this just for show? I don't, but it's like, okay. Oh, it's packages. All right, see, that's being rude. All right, whatever. So now when I look, sure enough, here's that first version, whereas before we didn't see anything. You know, let's take a look at this. I could execute the same command again and tap the verbose flag. This verbose flag will basically, I warn you, this will throw up on you with all kinds of information. So this is probably easier if you pipe it out to a file. And then open that file in the thing so you can see it without it wrapping and everything. So basically I gave here's the information. So here's the version name, version number, here's the 04T record ID that it wants to give. The alias is here because it's in my project right now. If it had installation keys, here's that installation URL. Again, all this information is based on the verbose command flag right here. But it shows my code coverage. So my code coverage for this is 100%, which is great because then my code coverage has been met. So I can switch it to, where's the released? Here we go. The package version, is it released? And right now it says it's false. What that means is, if you're familiar with the old first generation package, this is a beta package. Now, if you want to install it in production, you have to set it to released. So there's another command called the force package version release. No, promote. Promote is the word. The promote command, you give it a version. And as long as this code coverage is sufficient, you can promote it. Are you sure? Yeah, of course. I wouldn't execute the command if I didn't want to do that.
You never know that.
Mm-hmm. So now it's successfully promoted. So let's close this. And let's take a new read of this again, blah, blah, blah. And now this version is released. And so I can install this into a production org if I choose to. All right. Ohad, your earlier comment was, if I had my project, if my project depended on, say, a S object, and my S object was not part of the directory for the package, it would not compile.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
You taught me that.
I did teach you that, and that is the correct way to teach it because I taught it. No, it's not that at all. The reason that is true is because the standard unlock package allows you to do it and requires that every bit of dependencies be present. Now you could add more information here in a dependency list. And what you could end up doing here is specify, hang on, let me find who has a good one. Let me show you a different one, a different project JSON that would have some dependencies. Second, yeah, this one's gonna be a good one here. So this is a project JSON with it's got a lot of dependencies, a lot spread out across a lot of different things. And so what you end up doing here is you have a dependency and you can specify these dependency versions for your project. And again, these packages are actually just package aliases. So you, again, the package alias here, you search for it here, and it's actually defined right here, and it's a 04T. So this would be possible, and this package would create, because all of the S objects would be part of other packages that are pre-installed in the org before you do that.
Right, but
Now
that's when you haven't actually defined dependency.
That's when you have a defined dependency. Now, the question was, if you had an S object and it wasn't part of another package as listed as a dependency, it wouldn't compile. That was true up until, wait for it, the summer 20 release.
Oh, that's now. That was just
Yes.
a few weeks ago.
Yes. And so if you look, you would get this right here. It's called the org dependent unlock package. This is a variation of the unlock package. So when you are creating the package, you would do this force package create -H. You'll notice right at the bottom, there's this new flag. This is a beta feature only right now. But if you do this, so what this allows you to do is you could specify other dependencies, maybe in the secondary directory, other objects. And when Salesforce is building the package, it defers anything that it cannot find. And it says, well, this is fine. I'll accept this. I trust the developer. Listen to what I'm saying here. Salesforce trusts the developer that the dependencies will be there when you install the package into the org.
That sounds like a great idea.
No. All right. Everybody who listens here and everybody who listens to this recording, in my personal professional opinion, this is a scary option. They had to do this because they were getting a lot of pushback from, say, consulting SIs. So consultants might come into a client org. The client org has a lot of things already built into it. They need time. They don't want to restructure all of the existing stuff into basic packages. So they want the consultant just to come in and create an org dependent package. Here's the problem. This assumes that everything is constant from the development environment all the way up to the production. If you have a large enterprise org, my question to you is, when has it ever been consistent constantly from the development sandbox to the other development sandbox, to the third development sandbox, to the 20th development sandbox, to the different feature testing sandboxes, to the merged integration sandbox, to this final staging sandbox, to production? When have they all been consistent? And so this is a very risky proposition. I don't encourage this. I don't, again, go for the standard one where you explicitly define all your dependencies. But yes, this is now an option, and it's a scary one. But anyway, okay, I've gotten off my soapbox on this one. All right, we have talked about a couple of different things tonight. We have talked about, creating the project, source code, how do you get it started, how you go from there. Anybody got any questions before we wrap up? We're a little bit over on time, but we're doing pretty good. Anybody, any questions? If you want, you can also go into the Trailhead communities. And first of all, let's do this. I did something very similar to this operation. So let me do this. In the Trailhead Salesforce.com, the live, so the code things, go to the view all, and not the featured, but the all, and look for Kevin Purum, and find, here we go, find the July 2nd version. This is when Kevin Purum and I basically recorded a code live session, and basically we walked through the same thing. We did it with his old Promises library course. So we can put this link into the video notes here. But more importantly, go to there's two different communities that you want to be aware of. First of all, if you go to the Trailblazers community, look for just the Salesforce DX community. There's a lot of good information there. A lot of, 2,000 people talking about how to do Salesforce projects. You can ask your questions. Ohad and I hang out there quite a bit. There's also Unlock Packages community that gets into more specifics, obviously, about Unlock Packages and what's going on there. And, just if you have any questions, it's a great place to ask questions and get a lot of different people to chime in on the answers. If you're an ISV on the call, go to the partner community and you can find Manage Packages. And I think there's also, excuse me, I think there's also, thank you very much. I'll take that blessing. There's also the Salesforce DX partner development community on the partner force side. So again, they're the same type of thing, but they're geared to ISV type questions. But these are great places to get help and ask questions along the line about what's going on. So yeah. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? All right. I think we're done.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions or nobody has anything else they want to say, we're going to call this a day today. And thank you everybody for joining. And we'll post this video to our Trailblazer community probably in the next day or two.
Yep. And then, yep. So the last slide is just the normal stay in touch with us. So life goes on. Yeah.
Great. Well, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you guys soon, virtually probably first, and then who knows, maybe in the next 5 or 10 years we'll see each other in person.
All right. Thank you guys.
Bye everybody.